I always believed family meant unconditional support. Growing up as the oldest daughter, I learned early that my role was to give, to understand, and to make sacrifices. My brother Ryan was always the golden child, his achievements celebrated with parties and presents, while mine were acknowledged with a simple, good job, and expectations for more. When I got engaged to Daniel last year, it was the happiest moment of my life. He proposed on a quiet evening at home, just the two of us and our little rescue dog Max. Daniel wasn't wealthy, but he worked hard as an architect, and I had been saving from my nursing job for years. Together, we had enough to plan a modest but beautiful wedding. The Willow Creek venue was everything I'd dreamed of, a charming converted farmhouse with gardens that bloomed year-round, even in October when we planned to marry. The moment I saw it, I knew it was meant to be our place. The owner, Mrs. Reynolds, was a kind older woman who'd been running the venue for 30 years. "This is the one," I whispered to Daniel, squeezing his hand as we toured the property. The $5,000 deposit was steep, but worth it. I wrote the check myself from my personal savings account, money I'd been putting aside since my first job at 16. Mrs. Reynolds gave us a receipt and marked our date in her leather-bound appointment book. "October 15th, she smiled. "The maples will be gorgeous that time of year." My mother's reaction when I called to tell her about the venue was lukewarm at best. "Willow Creek? Isn't that a bit rustic? Your cousin Melissa had her wedding at the Grand Plaza downtown." "Mom, this is what Daniel and I want. It's beautiful and within our budget." "I suppose it's your wedding," she sighed, in that way that always made me feel like I'd disappointed her. I'd long accepted that nothing I did would measure up to my mother's expectations. My brother Ryan was the standard I could never reach, the successful business major who'd made our family proud while I settled for nursing. "Just make sure you invite the Petersons and the Wilsons," my mother continued. "They're important connections for your father's business." "Of course," I agreed automatically, adding 2 more families I barely knew to our already bloated guest list. The weeks following were a flurry of planning. Daniel and I both worked full-time, so wedding preparations happened in precious evening hours and weekends. My mother occasionally offered to help, which usually meant criticizing my choices or suggesting more expensive options. "The flower arrangements should be larger," she'd say, or "Surely you're not choosing those invitations." I stood my ground on most things, but conceded on others for the sake of peace. Daniel noticed my stress and suggested we elope, only half joking. I considered it briefly, but knew I'd regret not having a proper ceremony with our friends. 2 months before the wedding, Ryan called to announce he was coming home for his birthday, which fell just 3 weeks before our wedding date. He'd been working in Seattle for the past 2 years and visits home were rare. "That's great," I said, genuinely happy. Despite the favoritism, I loved my brother. "We'll have to celebrate while you're here." "Mom's already planning something," he chuckled. "You know how she gets." I did know. When Ryan graduated college, she threw a party that cost more than my entire semester's tuition. When he landed his first job, she invited the entire neighborhood for a celebration. "Just don't let her go overboard," I joked. "I need her focused on the wedding after that." Speaking of which, need any help with planning? I know it can be stressful. "Thanks, but we're managing. Just having you at the wedding is enough." A week later, my mother called, sounding unusually cheerful. "Emma, darling, I've been thinking about Ryan's birthday. Since everyone will be in town for your wedding anyway, it makes sense to have a proper celebration while he's here." "Sure, Mom. We could do dinner at your place, or maybe reserve a restaurant." "Oh, I was thinking of something a bit more special. He is turning 30 after all." Warning bells went off in my head, but I ignored them. "What did you have in mind?" "Nothing extravagant, just a nice gathering with family and close friends. I'll handle everything, don't worry." I should have worried. I should have asked more questions. But wedding planning had consumed my life, and I was grateful for one less thing to manage. The next few weeks passed in a blur of final dress fittings, catering confirmations, and last-minute RSVPs. Daniel and I were both exhausted but excited. Everything was coming together, and despite my mother's occasional meddling, it was going to be the wedding we wanted. Then, exactly 2 weeks before the wedding, my phone rang while I was on night shift at the hospital. It was Mrs. Reynolds from Willow Creek. Emma, I'm sorry to call so late, but I wanted to check about the setup for Saturday. I frowned, checking the date on my phone. Saturday? Our wedding is on the 15th, that's 2 weeks away. A pause. Yes, your wedding is on the 15th, but I have you down for an event this Saturday as well, the 24th. There must be some mistake, I said, stepping away from the nurse's station to a quieter corridor. I didn't book anything for this Saturday. Well, someone did. Your mother called last month to book the venue for a birthday celebration. She said it was for your brother. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. My mother booked Willow Creek? For my brother's birthday? Yes, she specifically mentioned it was a surprise party for your brother Ryan's 30th birthday. She said you knew about it. My hands were trembling now. No, I didn't know anything about this. How did she even pay for it? Mrs. Reynolds cleared her throat uncomfortably. She used your existing deposit, dear. She said you had authorized her to use part of your wedding fund for this event since it was for family. She brought in the receipt and everything. The receipt. The one I had stupidly left at my parents' house when I was showing my mother our wedding plans. Mrs. Reynolds, I never authorized this. That money was for my wedding. Oh dear, she said softly. I'm so sorry. She was so convincing, and since she had your receipt, would you like me to cancel the reservation? I closed my eyes, trying to control my breathing. The deposit was non-refundable. If I canceled now, that money would be gone, and we'd have nothing for the wedding. No, I said finally. Let her have the party. But please, can you confirm that our wedding date is secure? Absolutely, Emma. Your wedding is still booked for the 15th. And I'm truly sorry about this misunderstanding. After hanging up, I stood frozen in the hospital hallway, trying to process what had just happened. My mother had taken my wedding deposit, my hard-earned money, and used it to throw a surprise party for my brother, without asking me, without even telling me. I called Daniel immediately, my voice breaking as I explained the situation. She did what? His normally calm voice rose in disbelief. Emma, that's theft. She stole from us. I know, I whispered, wiping away tears. I don't know what to do. Confront her, he said firmly. Call her right now and demand an explanation. I shook my head, though he couldn't see it. I can't do that. Not from work, and not over the phone. I need to see her face when I ask her why she thought this was okay. Then we'll go there together tomorrow, Daniel said. This isn't right, Emma. You know that, right? This crosses every boundary. I did know. But confronting my mother meant acknowledging a painful truth I'd been avoiding my entire life. That in her eyes, Ryan's happiness would always matter more than mine. The next day was my day off. Daniel took the morning off work, and we drove to my parents' house together. The whole way there, I rehearsed what I would say, how I would remain calm and simply ask for an explanation. Maybe there was a reasonable misunderstanding. Maybe Mrs. Reynolds had confused two separate payments, but deep down, I knew better. My mother answered the door in gardening clothes, looking surprised to see us. Emma, Daniel, what a lovely surprise. I was just planting those new roses. Come in, come in. We followed her into the kitchen, where she busied herself making coffee as if this were a normal social call. Mom, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We need to talk about something important. Of course, darling. Is it about the wedding? I was thinking about your centerpieces, and I found these lovely crystal vases that would... It's about Willow Creek, I interrupted, and Ryan's birthday party. Her hands stilled briefly over the coffee machine before resuming their movement. Oh? What about it? Mrs. Reynolds called me last night. She told me you booked the venue for this Saturday, using my wedding deposit. My mother turned, her expression perfectly composed. Well, yes. I thought it would be nice to have a proper celebration for Ryan's birthday since he rarely comes home. And since you already had the venue reserved for the wedding, it seemed practical to use it for this too. Daniel's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Mom, that was my money. Money I saved for my wedding. You had no right to use it without asking me. Emma, she sighed, in that patronizing tone I knew too well. It's just a venue, and it's family. Ryan would do the same for you. No, he wouldn't, I said quietly. Because Ryan respects boundaries. And this crossed every one of mine. Don't be dramatic, my mother waved dismissively. It's not like I canceled your wedding. You're still getting married there. I just thought we could make the most of the beautiful space for Ryan's special day too. With my money, I pressed. Money you took without permission. I didn't take anything, she said, making air quotes. I simply reallocated family resources. Besides, your father and I are contributing to your wedding too, you know. The contribution she referred to was their offer to pay for the rehearsal dinner, a gesture that now felt less generous knowing they had helped themselves to my funds. Will you be paying me back? I asked directly. My mother looked genuinely surprised by the question. Pay you back? Emma, this is family. We don't keep score like that. But we did, or at least she did, when it benefited her narrative of the selfless mother and the ungrateful daughter. I think you should leave now. My father's voice came from the doorway. I hadn't even heard him enter. If you're going to speak to your mother that way in her own home. Dad, I started, but he held up his hand. Your brother is coming home for his 30th birthday. It's a milestone. Your mother wanted to do something special, and yes, she found a creative solution. If you're too selfish to share your venue for one night, then maybe you should reconsider your priorities. The word selfish hit like a slap. How many times had I heard it growing up? Whenever I wanted something for myself, whenever I didn't immediately sacrifice for Ryan or for my parents' convenience. Daniel stood up, his face flushed with anger. Sir, with all due respect, what your wife did was wrong. That was Emma's money, saved from her own paychecks. If you wanted to throw a party for Ryan, you should have paid for it yourselves. This doesn't concern you, young man, my father said coldly. Actually, it does, Daniel replied. It's our wedding fund, our future she took from without asking, my mother interjected, her voice suddenly trembling. I was only trying to do something nice for the family. I don't understand why everyone is attacking me. The familiar guilt trip. I'd seen it countless times. My mother, the martyr, misunderstood and unappreciated. But this time, I wasn't backing down. Mom, Dad, I'm not attacking anyone. I'm stating facts. You used my money without permission for Ryan's party. I'm asking you to pay me back. And if we don't? My father challenged. I took a deep breath. Then I'll have to reconsider your role in my wedding. And in my life going forward. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face crumpled in practiced distress, while my father's reddened with genuine anger. Are you threatening to exclude us from your wedding? He demanded. I'm setting a boundary, I replied, my voice surprisingly calm. What you did was wrong, and I need you to acknowledge that and make it right. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue she'd produced from nowhere. I can't believe you'd ruin your brother's surprise party over money. He'll be so disappointed. The guilt trip again, but I was done being manipulated. Ryan will understand, I said firmly. He respects other people's boundaries. We left shortly after with no resolution. My parents refused to admit any wrongdoing, and I refused to back down. Daniel held my hand the entire drive home, occasionally glancing at me with concern. Are you okay? He asked finally as we pulled into our apartment complex. No, I admitted, but I will be. That night, I called Ryan. He deserved to know what was happening, especially since it involved his birthday. My hands trembled as I dialed his number, unsure how he would react. Would he side with our parents, as he often did to keep the peace, or would he understand why I was upset? Hey sis, his cheerful voice answered. I was just thinking about you. How's the wedding planning going? It's complicated, I said, and then proceeded to tell him everything. How Mom had used my venue deposit for his surprise party without asking. How she and Dad had refused to pay me back or even acknowledge that what she did was wrong. There was a long pause after I finished speaking. Are you kidding me? Ryan finally said, his voice tight with anger. She did that without telling you? Relief washed over me. Yes. And now she's making me feel like I'm overreacting for being upset about it. You're not overreacting, he said firmly. That's so far over the line, Emma. I'm sorry she put you in this position, and I'm sorry they're using my birthday as an excuse." "It's not your fault," I assured him. "Maybe not, but I'm not going to let them get away with it either. I'm calling Mom right now." "Ryan, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. This is wrong, and they need to hear it from both of us." After we hung up, I sat on the couch, emotionally drained. Daniel brought me a cup of tea and sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "What did Ryan say?" "He's on our side. He's going to call Mom." Daniel nodded. "Good. But Emma, regardless of what happens with Ryan's intervention, we need to be prepared for the possibility that your parents won't back down." "I know," I said quietly. And I meant what I said. If they can't respect this boundary, I can't have them at our wedding. It would be too painful. The next morning, Ryan called me back. "Well, that was a fun conversation," he said, his voice heavy with sarcasm. "That bad?" "Worse. Mom cried about how ungrateful we both are, and Dad said I was betraying the family by taking your side. I told them they needed to pay you back immediately, and Dad said they'd think about it." My heart sank. So they're not going to do it. "I wouldn't count on it," Ryan sighed, "but I want you to know that I won't be attending any party they throw with your money. In fact, I told them I'm coming a day later than planned, so I'll miss the whole thing." "Ryan, you don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. This is about principle, Emma. They can't treat you this way and expect me to celebrate." Tears welled in my eyes. Despite everything, I'd always been close to my brother. He was the one person in my family who saw me for who I really was. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me for doing the bare minimum of being a decent brother," he said firmly. "Listen, I have some savings. Let me help you with the wedding costs." "No, Ryan, that's not why I called you." "I know it's not. But I want to help. Consider it my wedding gift." I hesitated, torn between pride and practicality. We really did need the money for the wedding. "I'll think about it," I promised. The next few days passed in tense silence. My parents didn't call, and I didn't reach out to them. I threw myself into work and wedding preparations, trying not to think about the fact that my own mother had betrayed me so casually. Saturday, the day of Ryan's surprise party, arrived. I had decided not to go, a decision Daniel fully supported. Instead, we planned a quiet evening at home, finalizing our seating arrangements for the wedding. At around 8 p.m., my phone rang. It was Mrs. Reynolds from Willow Creek. "Emma, I'm so sorry to bother you, but there's a situation here I think you should know about." My stomach tightened. "What's wrong? Is it about the venue for our wedding?" No, your wedding is fine," she assured me. "It's about tonight's event. Your mother..." "Well, she's telling everyone that you're hosting this party for your brother. She's making quite a show of how generous you are, spending your wedding money on his birthday." I closed my eyes, disbelief washing over me. "She's saying what?" "That you insisted on using your venue deposit to give your brother a special celebration. She's painted you as quite the self-sacrificing sister." Anger flared hot and sudden. Not only had my mother taken my money without permission, but now she was using my forced generosity to make herself look good. "Mrs. Reynolds, I need to ask you a huge favor," I said, an idea forming. "Of course, dear. What can I do?" 20 minutes later, Daniel and I were dressed and in the car, heading to Willow Creek. I was nervous but resolute. This had to end. "Are you sure about this?" Daniel asked as we pulled into the parking lot. "Absolutely," I replied. "It's time to stop letting her control the narrative." The venue looked beautiful, I had to admit. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, and music spilled from the open doors of the farmhouse. Cars filled the parking lot, many more than I'd expected for what my mother had called a small family gathering. Daniel and I walked hand in hand to the entrance. Inside, the scene was elaborate. A professional DJ, catered food, an open bar, and at least 50 guests. This was no small family gathering. This was an extravagant party, paid for with my wedding deposit. I spotted my mother immediately. She was holding court near a large birthday cake, laughing with some family friends. She hadn't seen me yet. Mrs. Reynolds approached us, sympathy in her eyes. "Emma, I'm so glad you're here. Your mother has been telling everyone how you insisted on giving up your wedding venue deposit for this party. Some guests even brought you wedding gifts as thanks." I squeezed Daniel's hand for support, then walked directly to where my mother stood. She saw me approaching and faltered mid-sentence. "Emma, what a surprise. I thought you weren't coming." "I wasn't," I said, loudly enough for those nearby to hear. "Until Mrs. Reynolds called to tell me you were telling everyone that I willingly gave up my wedding deposit for this party." The conversations around us died down as people turned to listen. "Well, you did agree to let us use the venue," my mother said, her voice overly sweet, eyes darting nervously to the watching guests. "No, Mom, I did not. You took my wedding deposit without asking me. You stole from me." Gasps from several guests. My mother's face flushed. "Emma, this is hardly the time or place." "Actually, it's exactly the right time and place," I interrupted. "Since you've been using my name and my money to throw this party, I think these people deserve to know the truth." My father appeared at my mother's side, his expression thunderous. "That's enough, Emma. You're making a scene." "No, Dad. Mom made a scene when she stole my money and then lied about it to all these people." Mrs. Reynolds stepped forward then, clearing her throat. "I think I can clarify the situation," she said calmly. "When Mrs. Carter booked this venue for tonight's event, she presented Emma's receipt and told me Emma had authorized her to use the wedding deposit. I had no reason to doubt her at the time." My mother's face paled. "Judith, please, this is a family matter." "She paid with your check, Emma," Mrs. Reynolds continued, ignoring my mother's interruption. "The one you wrote for your wedding deposit." The silence that followed was absolute. Every eye in the room moved between my mother's reddening face and my steady gaze. "Is this true, Catherine?" someone asked my mother. It was my Aunt Linda, my father's sister, looking shocked. My mother straightened her shoulders, attempting to regain control. "Emma is exaggerating. It was a simple misunderstanding. Of course I was going to replace the deposit." "Were you?" I asked quietly. "Because when Daniel and I asked you to pay us back, you refused. You called me selfish for even asking." More uncomfortable murmurs from the gathered guests. Ryan was nowhere to be seen, true to his word about not attending. My father stepped forward, clearly trying to salvage the situation. "This is ridiculous. We've paid for so many things for Emma over the years. This venue deposit is nothing compared to what we've given her." "This isn't about what you've given me," I replied. "It's about respect. You took my money without permission. You lied to Mrs. Reynolds. You lied to your friends and family. And when confronted, instead of apologizing and making it right, you doubled down and made me the villain." I turned to address the guests directly. "I'm sorry to interrupt the party, but I couldn't let this deception continue. My mother did not have my permission to use my wedding deposit for this event. I did not generously offer my venue as she's been claiming. She took it, and when confronted, she and my father refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing." I turned back to my parents. "I meant what I said the other day. Either you pay me back my deposit in full, or you won't be welcome at my wedding. It's your choice." My mother's face crumpled in genuine distress this time. Not at her actions, I realized, but at being exposed in front of her friends. "How dare you embarrass us like this?" she hissed. "You embarrassed yourselves," I replied calmly. I looked around at the uncomfortable faces of the guests. Family friends, relatives, my parents' business associates. Many looked shocked, others embarrassed to be witnessing this family drama. A few looked at me with something like respect in their eyes. "I apologize to everyone for the disruption," I said. "Please enjoy the rest of the evening. The venue is beautiful, the food is excellent, and none of this is Ryan's fault. He didn't even know about any of this until I told him." I turned to leave, Daniel's hand firmly in mine, when Mrs. Reynolds called out, "Emma, before you go." She approached and handed me an envelope. "This was delivered earlier today. I was going to give it to your mother, but under the circumstances..." I opened the envelope and found a check inside, from Ryan, for the exact amount of my wedding deposit, plus a little extra. There was a note attached. "Emma, I know you didn't want to take my money, but I insist. What Mom and Dad did was wrong. I can't undo it, but I can make it right. Love you, sis. P.S. I really am skipping the party. Call me when it's all over. Tears welled in my eyes as I showed the note to Daniel. He squeezed my hand supportively. As we walked toward the exit, my Aunt Linda stepped forward and hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry, Emma," she whispered. "I had no idea Catherine would do something like this." "Thank you, Aunt Linda." "For what it's worth," she added, "I think you handled this with incredible grace, and I'll definitely be at your wedding, whether your parents are or not." Outside in the parking lot, the weight of what had just happened hit me. I leaned against our car, trembling slightly. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked, wrapping an arm around me. "I think so," I said. "I can't believe I actually did that." "I'm proud of you," he said. "Standing up to them couldn't have been easy." It wasn't. But for the first time in my life, I had refused to let my mother's manipulation dictate my actions. I had spoken my truth, regardless of the consequences. "Let's go home," I said, suddenly exhausted. As Daniel drove us away from Willow Creek, my phone began buzzing with text messages. First from Ryan. "Mom just called me, furious. Said you crashed the party and humiliated her in front of everyone. I'm guessing that means you finally stood up to her? Good for you, sis. Call me when you can." Then from various relatives and family friends who had been at the party. "Emma, I had no idea what Catherine did, so sorry you're going through this. Just want you to know we support you. What happened wasn't right. Your mother has some explaining to do. We're on your side." I showed the messages to Daniel when we stopped at a red light. "Looks like the truth is setting you free," he observed. "And apparently taking others with it," I replied, a small smile forming despite everything. When we arrived home, I called Ryan and filled him in on the details of what had happened at the party. He alternated between outrage on my behalf and pride in my courage. "I wish I could have seen Mom's face," he chuckled. "Though I'm glad I wasn't there. It would have made everything more complicated." "Ryan, about the check—" "Non-negotiable," he interrupted. "Consider it an investment in my future sister-in-law's happiness." I laughed despite myself. "Fine, but you're getting an extra special wedding present." "I better. And Emma, I'm really proud of you. It's about time someone called them out on their behavior." After we hung up, I sat with Daniel on our small balcony, watching the stars emerge in the evening sky. "Do you think they'll come to the wedding?" Daniel asked quietly. "I don't know," I admitted. Part of me hopes they will, that this was the wake-up call they needed. But another part of me is almost relieved at the thought of not having them there, controlling everything and making it about them. "Whatever happens," Daniel said, taking my hand, "it's our day. No one can take that away from us." He was right. For too long, I'd allowed my parents, especially my mother, to dictate my worth, my choices, my very identity. Tonight marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where I set the boundaries and stood firm in my truth. The wedding was still 2 weeks away. There was time for my parents to make amends, to acknowledge their wrongdoing, and repair our relationship. But for the first time in my life, their approval wasn't necessary for my happiness. I leaned against Daniel's shoulder, feeling lighter than I had in years. "Our day," I repeated softly. I like the sound of that. The next morning, I woke to several missed calls from my parents. I wasn't ready to talk to them yet, so I silenced my phone and focused on final wedding preparations. Daniel and I spent the day addressing last-minute details, confirming with vendors, finalizing the playlist with our DJ, and picking up our wedding rings from the jeweler. By evening, my voicemail was full. Most messages were from my mother, alternating between tearful apologies and angry accusations. "Emma, please call me back. I don't understand why you'd humiliate me like that in front of everyone. We've always supported you. This is so unfair. After everything we've done for you over the years." The last message, left around dinner time, was different. "Emma," my father's stern voice filled the speaker. "Your mother is devastated by your behavior. I understand you're upset, but there are proper ways to handle family disagreements, and publicly embarrassing your parents isn't one of them. Call us back so we can discuss this like adults." I played the messages for Daniel, who shook his head in disbelief. "They're still not getting it, are they?" he said. "This isn't about you embarrassing them. It's about what they did." "I think that's the problem," I sighed. "They can't see that they did anything wrong." Ryan called later that evening. "Fair warning, sis. Mom and Dad are on the warpath. They showed up at my hotel today expecting sympathy." "What did you tell them?" "The truth, that what they did was wrong, and they owe you a genuine apology, not this gaslighting nonsense." Dad said I was being disloyal, and Mom cried about how we're both turning against her. I closed my eyes, imagining the scene. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this." "Don't be. It's about time someone called them out." Actually, I had a long talk with Aunt Linda after they left. She had some interesting things to say about Mom's behavior over the years. Like what? Like how Mom has always created drama around your achievements to redirect attention. Remember when you graduated nursing school and she had that medical emergency right before the ceremony? I remembered. My mother had felt faint just as we were lining up for the processional. The focus of the day immediately shifted to her, with family members taking turns sitting with her instead of watching the ceremony. "I always thought that was just bad timing," I said slowly. "According to Aunt Linda, it's a pattern. She did the same thing when you got your first nursing job, when you moved into your own apartment, and now with your wedding." A chill ran through me as years of memories resurfaced, moments of achievement overshadowed by my mother's convenient crises or Ryan's coincidentally timed needs. "I never noticed," I whispered. "Neither did I," Ryan admitted. "We just accepted it as normal." "But Emma, it's not normal. It's manipulation." The realization was both painful and liberating. I wasn't imagining things. The pattern was real. "What do I do now?" I asked. "Stand your ground. Don't let them make this about your reaction instead of their actions." The next day, a large flower arrangement arrived at our apartment. The card read, "Emma, we're sorry if there was a misunderstanding. We love you, Mom and Dad." If there was a misunderstanding? Daniel read over my shoulder, his voice incredulous. "That's not an apology. That's more gaslighting." He was right. They were still refusing to acknowledge what they'd done. I placed the flowers on our kitchen table and stared at them, trying to decide how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore the gesture entirely. Another part wanted to call and explain, yet again, why their actions had hurt me so deeply. But would they listen this time when they hadn't before? In the end, I sent a text. "Thank you for the flowers. When you're ready to acknowledge what you did and apologize sincerely, I'm willing to talk." 3 days passed with no response. Then, on Wednesday evening, a week before our wedding, there was a knock at our apartment door. I opened it to find my parents standing there, looking uncomfortable. "Can we come in?" my father asked stiffly. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Daniel emerged from the bedroom, his posture tensing when he saw my parents. "Emma," my mother began once we were all seated in the living room. "We've come to talk about what happened." Her voice was carefully controlled, her expression a practiced mask of contrition. "We realize we should have asked you before using the venue," she continued. "It was thoughtless, and we apologize." The words were right, but the tone felt rehearsed, empty. "Do you understand why I was so upset?" I asked. My mother blinked. "Well, yes, we used your deposit without permission." "It's more than that, Mom. You took something that was important to me, my wedding venue, my savings, and used it for Ryan without even considering my feelings. Then you lied about it to everyone, making it seem like it was my idea." "I didn't lie," she protested. "I just presented it in a positive light. You told people I willingly gave up my wedding deposit for Ryan's party." "That was a lie." My father cleared his throat. "Catherine, let's be honest here. We did misrepresent the situation." My mother shot him a look but didn't argue. "We've brought you this," my father continued, pulling an envelope from his pocket, "to replace the deposit." I took the envelope and found a check inside, for exactly the amount of my venue deposit. "Thank you," I said, "but I need to know this won't happen again. I need to know you respect my boundaries." "Of course we respect your boundaries," my mother said quickly. "We've always wanted what's best for you." What's best for me is to be treated as an equal member of this family, not someone whose needs always come second to Ryan's. My mother's practiced composure slipped. That's ridiculous. We've never favored Ryan. Ryan's words echoed in my mind. Don't let them make this about your reaction instead of their actions. Mom, I'm not here to argue about the past. I'm telling you how I feel and what I need going forward. If you want to be part of my life, part of our lives, I glanced at Daniel, then you need to respect that. My father nodded slowly. We understand, and we want to be part of your wedding. We want things to go back to normal. But I wasn't sure I wanted normal anymore. Normal meant sacrificing my needs for family peace. Normal meant accepting my role as second best. Things can't go back to how they were, I said quietly. But we can build something better, something healthier. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I don't understand why you're being so difficult about this. We've apologized. We've repaid the money. What more do you want? I want you to listen to me, Mom. Really listen, not just wait for your turn to speak. I want you to acknowledge the pattern of behavior that's hurt me for years. What pattern? She asked defensively. I've been nothing but supportive of you. Daniel spoke up then, his voice gentle but firm. Mrs. Carter, with respect, Emma isn't making this up. The way you've treated her, putting Ryan's needs first, dismissing her feelings, taking her wedding deposit without permission, it's not healthy, and it's not how parents should treat their child. My father stood abruptly. We didn't come here to be lectured by you, young man. Dad, I said sharply, Daniel is going to be your son-in-law. If you can't respect him, then this conversation is over. My father looked startled, then slowly sat back down. All I'm saying, Daniel continued calmly, is that Emma deserves better. She deserves parents who celebrate her achievements, who respect her boundaries, and who treat her as an equal to her brother. My mother's lips thinned. We've always celebrated Emma's achievements. Like when you had a medical emergency during my nursing school graduation, I asked quietly. My mother's eyes widened. That was real. I was genuinely feeling faint. And during my first day at my new nursing job, when you called 5 times because Ryan needed help moving apartments? He needed help, she protested. I didn't know it was your first day. Yes, you did, Mom. I told you weeks in advance. My father looked uncomfortable. Emma, what exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that for years you've found ways to shift attention away from my accomplishments and toward either Ryan's needs or some convenient crisis. I'm not saying it was always conscious or malicious, but it happened consistently. My mother stood up now, her face flushed with anger. This is absurd. We came here to apologize, not to be accused of what? Sabotaging your life? Is that what you think we've done? No, Mom. I think you've prioritized Ryan's happiness over mine, consistently, for as long as I can remember. And when I finally stood up for myself, you couldn't handle it. This is ridiculous, my mother snapped. If you're going to cling to these delusions, then I don't know what else to say. My father placed a restraining hand on her arm. Catherine, please, let's not make things worse. So that's it? I asked, looking between them. You're not even willing to consider that what I'm saying might be true? My father sighed heavily. Emma, we love you. We love both our children equally. If we've made mistakes, we're sorry. But this accusation of systematic favoritism, it's hard to accept. I understand, I said, and I did. It was painful to have your parenting questioned, to face the possibility that you'd hurt your child without realizing it. So where does this leave us? My father asked. The wedding is next week. Do you still want us there? I looked at Daniel, who squeezed my hand supportively. This was my decision to make. Yes, I said finally. I want you at the wedding, but on one condition. What's that? My father asked warily. That you respect our choices for the day. No criticizing the venue, the food, the music, the guests. Nothing. It's our day, not yours. My mother opened her mouth to object, but my father spoke first. We can do that. Can't we, Catherine? After a moment's hesitation, my mother nodded. Of course. As they prepared to leave, my mother paused at the door. "Emma, I do love you. Whatever you might think, I've only ever wanted the best for you." "I know, Mom," I said softly, "but sometimes what you think is best for me isn't what I need or want. I need you to see me, really see me, for who I am, not who you want me to be." Something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or the first glimmer of understanding. "I'll try," she said finally. "That's all I can promise." After they left, I collapsed on the couch, emotionally drained. "How do you feel?" Daniel asked, sitting beside me. "Exhausted, relieved, scared," I admitted. I've never stood up to them like that before. Not really. "You did great," he said, pulling me close. "And no matter what happens next, I'm here with you." That night, I called Ryan to update him. "They actually gave you a check?" He sounded surprised. "That's progress, I guess." "I think Dad gets it. A little," I said. "Mom, not so much, but at least they're trying." "So they're coming to the wedding?" "Yes, with conditions. I told them they have to respect our choices." Ryan laughed. "Good luck with that. But seriously, Emma, I'm proud of you. Standing your ground with them isn't easy." The week before the wedding passed in a blur of final preparations. My parents kept their distance, communicating mainly through brief text messages confirming details about the rehearsal dinner. It was a strange, tentative peace, but it was better than open conflict. The day before the wedding, we held the rehearsal at Willow Creek. The venue looked even more beautiful than I remembered, with the October trees blazing red and gold around the property. Mrs. Reynolds had outdone herself, setting up the ceremony space with simple white chairs and an arbor twined with autumn flowers. "It's perfect," I whispered to Daniel as we practiced our walk down the aisle. My parents arrived for the rehearsal dinner looking uncomfortable, but determined to keep their promise. My mother had moments where she clearly wanted to suggest changes. I could see her biting her lip when she saw the table arrangements, but she held her tongue. Ryan was my champion throughout the evening, smoothly intercepting any potential conflicts and keeping the conversation light. He had arrived 2 days earlier and had been an invaluable help with last-minute tasks. As the dinner wound down, he clinked his glass for attention. "I'd like to make a toast," he said, standing. "To Emma and Daniel, two of the most genuine, kind-hearted people I know. Emma, you've always been my rock, even when I didn't deserve it. Daniel, you're the partner my sister deserves, someone who sees her true worth and stands by her no matter what." He raised his glass higher. "May your marriage be built on the strong foundation of respect, understanding, and unwavering support that you've already established. I love you both." Tears welled in my eyes as I hugged my brother. "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything." He squeezed me tight. "Always, sis. Always." As guests began to leave, my mother approached me hesitantly. "The venue is lovely, Emma," she said, surprising me with her sincerity. "You were right to choose it." "Thank you, Mom," I replied, grateful for the olive branch. "I've been thinking about what you said," she continued, her voice low, "about how I've treated you compared to Ryan." I held my breath, not wanting to break the moment with the wrong response. "I don't know if I agree with everything," she admitted, "but I can see that I might have overlooked your feelings sometimes, and I'm sorry for that." It wasn't a full acknowledgement, but it was something, a crack in the wall of denial. "Thank you," I said simply. "That means a lot." She nodded, then hesitated before adding, "I do want you to be happy, Emma. I hope you know that." "I do, Mom. I just need you to respect that I know what makes me happy, even if it's different from what you would choose." She nodded again, though I could see the concept was still difficult for her to fully embrace. My wedding day dawned crisp and clear, the October sky a brilliant blue. I woke early, a mixture of excitement and nerves fluttering in my stomach. My bridesmaids, my best friend Jen and 2 colleagues from the hospital, arrived at our apartment to help me get ready. We spent the morning laughing, sharing stories, and steadily transforming me into a bride. When my mother arrived to join us, there was an awkward moment of uncertainty. But then she smiled, a genuine smile, not her usual tight, controlled expression, and handed me a small box. "I brought something for you," she said, "if you'd like to wear it." Inside was a delicate silver hairpin with a small pearl. "It was my grandmother's," she explained. "She wore it at her wedding and I wore it at mine, but only if you want to," she added quickly. "Your hairstyle is beautiful as it is." It was the first time I could remember my mother acknowledging that my choice might be different from hers, and that it would be okay. "I'd love to wear it," I said, genuinely touched. "It's beautiful, Mom." As my hairstylist carefully placed the pin, my mother watched with tears in her eyes. "You look radiant, Emma," she said softly. The ceremony at Willow Creek was everything I dreamed of. Walking down the aisle on my father's arm, seeing Daniel waiting for me beneath the flower-adorned arbor, feeling the crisp autumn air on my face. It was perfect in its simplicity and sincerity. Our vows were personal, promises we'd written ourselves about partnership, respect, and unwavering support. When Daniel promised to always see you, hear you, and value your voice above all others, I knew he was acknowledging the journey I'd been on with my family and promising that our relationship would be different. As we exchanged rings, I glanced briefly at my parents in the front row. My father looked proud, my mother emotional but composed. They were trying in their way to accept this new version of me, the woman who stood up for herself, who set boundaries, who demanded respect. The reception was a joyous celebration. Under the twinkling lights of Willow Creek's great room, we danced, laughed, and celebrated with our closest friends and family. Ryan gave a touching speech that had everyone alternating between laughter and tears. Even my parents seemed to relax as the evening progressed. My father danced with me to "What a Wonderful World," whispering, "I am proud of you, Emma. I hope you know that." My mother managed to make it through the entire reception without a single crisis or attempt to take over. When the cake was served, she even laughed good-naturedly when I accidentally got frosting on my nose. As Daniel and I prepared to leave, surrounded by guests ready to shower us with rose petals, my mother pulled me aside for a brief moment. "Emma," she said, her voice earnest, "I want you to know that I'm trying to understand, to be better. It won't happen overnight, but I'm trying." "That's all I ask, Mom," I replied, hugging her gently. "Just keep trying." We left Willow Creek in Daniel's car, decorated by our friends with just married signs and trailing ribbons, headed for a small bed and breakfast nearby before our honeymoon flight the next day. "So, Mrs. Mitchell," Daniel said, using my new married name, "how does it feel?" I thought about the question, not just how it felt to be married, but how it felt to have stood my ground, to have demanded respect, to have begun the difficult process of reshaping my relationship with my parents. "It feels like a beginning," I said, taking his hand. "A real beginning, on our terms." 6 months after our wedding, things with my parents were still a work in progress. There were good days and difficult ones, moments of understanding and moments of frustration. My mother still occasionally slipped into old patterns, and my father sometimes enabled her. But there was a difference. They were aware now, and when I pointed out problematic behavior, they listened more often than not. Ryan had become an unexpected ally in this new family dynamic, gently calling out favoritism or manipulation when he saw it, backing me up when necessary. The most significant change, though, was in me. I had found my voice and learned to use it. I had discovered that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was necessary for healthy relationships. And I had realized that while I couldn't control how others treated me, I could control how I responded. Daniel and I settled into married life with joy and confidence. Our apartment became a sanctuary where both of us were equally valued, our opinions equally important, our needs equally considered. It was the partnership I'd always hoped for, but hadn't always believed was possible. One evening, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset, Daniel asked, "Do you regret it, confronting your parents that night at Willow Creek?" I considered the question carefully, thinking about the pain and the growth that had followed. "No," I said finally. "It was messy and difficult, but necessary. That night changed everything, not just my relationship with my parents, but how I see myself." For the first time, I stood up and said, "This is not okay. I deserve better." You do deserve better, Daniel agreed, squeezing my hand. You always did. The funny thing is, I continued, in a strange way, I'm grateful for what happened. If Mom hadn't taken my wedding deposit, if she hadn't crossed that line so clearly, I might have kept accepting the smaller boundaries she violated. I might never have confronted the pattern. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes it takes a big shock to see what's been there all along. Exactly. And now that I see it, I can't unsee it. But more importantly, I can change how I respond to it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey wasn't over. It might never be over, completely. Family relationships are complex. Patterns established over decades don't disappear overnight, and people don't change fundamentally without sustained effort. But I had changed. I had found the strength to stand in my truth, to speak up when wronged, to demand the respect I deserved. That strength would stay with me, whatever challenges lay ahead. I love you, Daniel said softly, as if reading my thoughts. Your courage, your compassion, your strength, everything that makes you who you are. I leaned my head on his shoulder, content in the knowledge that I was finally being seen, truly seen, for exactly who I was. I love you too, I replied. Thank you for standing with me, even when it was hard. Always, he promised. That's what partners do. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that I had broken the cycle. Whatever patterns my parents had established, whatever dynamics had shaped my childhood, they would end with me. Daniel and I would build something different, something healthier, a relationship based on mutual respect, open communication, and unconditional support. It had begun with a stolen wedding deposit and a confrontation at Willow Creek, but it would continue, day by day, choice by choice, as we wrote our own story, together.